Apostolic Ministry, the part of chapter 14 and the chapter 15. Forwards. When the road became more and more steep, I reflected that it is easy to read about the apostles' journeys if one doesn't know how difficult the geographical context is. In Acts, it is just half of one verse. They went on from Perga and came to Antioch in Pisidia, chapter 13, verse 14a. To make this stage on bicycle, one needs at least 2 days of intensive cycling. How much more on foot? William Berkeley writes that to reach Pisidian Antioch, one had to struggle through the passes of Taurus mountains. It was one of the most difficult ways in Asia Minor. And of course, in those times, there were no asphalt roads. Yes, how did they travel? Where did they make stops for the night? The expert of those times, Daniel Ropes, writes about traveling in apostolic times. Quotation. The Romans' road system gave them their power. The excavated vie, it means roads, had big plates settled on the concrete foundation. Some of them were 5 meters width, some only 2.5, but with the extended places for eluding. There were also vie terrene, the roads made out of the hardened soil covered with the flat paving. Also bridges were found, though fords were used more, with the stony plates in the stream water. The plates had deep grooves in which the wheels of the carts moved. If one traveled on an animal, he had water mixed with wine and vinegar. Traveling on foot, he took just a can. Hospitality was great virtue among all ancient nations. For longer distances, travelers took the donkeys from Lycaonia. They were not easy, but strongest among all others. People never traveled solo. Every journey was a danger, from thieves and robbers. It would be worthy to also quote Paul's own confession. I have been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, danger in the wilderness, danger at sea, in toil and hardship, through many a sleepless night, in hunger and thirst, without food, in cold and exposure. When others are weak, I am weak too. From 2 Corinthians chapter 11, 26 to 29. It is also probable that during this stage Paul was sick. Galatians 4:13. As you know, it was because of an illness that I first preached the gospel to you. This means that traveling was quite difficult in those times. The main danger was from bandits and wild animals. Today there may be no bandits, but what about animals? Who knows, maybe there were wolves, boars. These thoughts caused me to become afraid, even though the traffic on the road was a kind of encouragement. It was the end of the weekend, and many people were returning from the seaside with their cars. The steepness of the road increased, and my strength to cycle decreased. I had to push my bicycle. The environment also changed. On the left-hand side of the road were large rocks, sometimes with hanging boulders and tall trees miraculously growing among them. On the right-hand side was a cliff. No, I wouldn't be able to reach Egirdia today. But where could I stop for the night? I met some people, and from their gestures I understood that the next settlement, a city with a hotel, was Isparta, still 55 kilometers away. Dark clouds appeared, followed by a little rain. I was very surprised when I found it was already dark by 5 p.m. When others are weak, I am weak too. Yes, Apostle Paul, I am becoming weak, fleshly as well as mentally. Heavy rain came, accompanied by thunder. However, I still bravely pushed my silver crown. I took the anti-rain cloth out from my baggage, but this didn't help much. I was drenched. In front of me was a road sign with comforting information that there was only 4 kilometers up the next peak. My God, for that distance I would need to push about 1 hour. So I continued to push myself and my bicycle. When I approached this peak, I guessed that there would be another one, and another, and so on. I collapsed. For the first time during my bicycle tours, I had to give up. Both my senses and the circumstances forced me to quit. I was angry with myself. I lost. But if Paul was weak, couldn't I also be? Chapter 15, under the title Supernatural Aspect. What now? The only solution was to stop a car which could convey me and my bicycle to Sparta. I began to hitchhike, and soon a small car stopped with 2 men in it. We were unable to communicate, but they were wonderful people who tried their best to place my bicycle in their car. Unfortunately, it wasn't possible. They had to leave without me. I had to continue to push my bicycle higher and higher. An experienced hitchhiker doesn't wait in one spot, but always moves forwards. I had learned this in my early years. So I held the handlebar with my right hand and hitchhiked with my left. I guess that about 200 cars passed by, but no one stopped. I couldn't take it anymore. I had no more strength left, and no more motivation. I think I even started to cry. My tears mixed on my cheeks with the drops of rain, so I couldn't discern if they were tears or rain. I cried loudly to God. Be merciful to me, please. Help me. Perform a miracle. Send your angel. Precisely at that very moment, a van pulled up next to me. A young man got out and helped me pack my bicycle inside his vehicle. It matched perfectly. I sat next to him in the front seat and breathed heavily. I hadn't recovered yet when the driver asked me in Turkish, "Catholic? Christian? Muslim?" "Christian," I answered. Then he said, "Isha good," which means Jesus is good. He pulled out a small book from his pocket and showed me the 4 Gospels in Turkish. He gestured and used some common words to explain that he was an imam, in Islam, a religious leader of a mosque. This is all I need, I thought sarcastically. But I had asked God for an angel, and he gave me an imam. I was not able to think rationally yet, and everything was too strange for me. An imam who was God's answer to my prayers, yet one who adored Jesus and had a copy of the Gospels. After a while, I realized that I was experiencing an authentic miracle. I was actually traveling with an angel imam. We introduced ourselves to each other. Of course, our conversation was very complicated. Soon we were approaching Sparta, and he asked me if I really wanted to stay in the hotel in this town. I had indeed wanted to, but why was there a need to be so right in fulfilling my plan? I inquired where he was going. Yalvac. Yalvac? Yalvac? Wait. This name was not strange to me. I asked him to stop the car and show me the place on the map. We looked at all my maps and finally we found it. and for me it was the next miracle. Well, maybe a half miracle. Jalvach means prophet. Jalvach lays close to the ancient Pisidian Antioch, the next stage of the first apostolic journey of Paul and Barnabas, as well as my next stage. I already registered this name in my mind during the preparation of my tour. Of course I will continue to go with you. I would not stop in Sparta in order to go by bus to Jalvach the very next day. Nonsense. Earlier, before meeting Angel Imam, I planned to stay overnight in Sparta and to continue my journey by bus the next day, because the rain was too strong. Now, in one moment, I gained 2 days in comparison to my earlier plans. The only problem was my bicycle conscience. It was painful. Oh yes, very painful. But what could I do? I had to submit to the major forces. I asked my new friend to stop at the gas station because I wanted to buy us something to eat and drink. Of course, that wasn't a problem, but the problem was that he insisted on paying. At the gas station, I sent a text to my wife asking her for special prayers because I was traveling with an Imam angel. I probably scared her with this news. Therefore, I would calm her with the next text. What had happened in the meantime? We were stopped by a police patrol. Was it an answer on Sandra's prayers? Such an accident is extremely rare. The policeman diligently checked my driver and me too, and even noted our names. This meant that an earthly power also knew about my situation. One of the policemen, who spoke a little German, translated the Imam's wish for me, that he invited me to be his guest. How could I refuse? Yes, I accept your invitation and thank you very much. I must only inform my wife, he said, and tried to call her from his cell phone. We didn't need the policeman translator anymore, and so we moved on. The Imam has several phone conversations with his wife, and finally he apologized. Unfortunately, it wasn't possible for them to host me. But next time, please, he said. With pleasure, I responded. I was amenable to this decision, although I already liked my angel Imam. He explains that he would take me to a hotel in Jalvach. I have to add that the rain was still very strong. Soon we were in front of the hotel with a very beautiful name, Antiocheia. Before parting company, I asked him if I could pray for him. Sure, he agreed zealously. I laid my hand on his arm, thanked God for him, and asked God for very special blessing in his life, especially for his spiritual birth. Almost at the end of my prayer, I peeked at him and saw him looking at me with wide open eyes and large tears flowing. He understood no word, but received. It was the presence of the Holy Spirit.